As fantastic a CFP as Mel O is, as wonderful an attorney as I am, and as good as Stormy is at whatever it is he does, please do note that anything said in our podcasts are our opinions alone and are not meant to be taken as financial or legal advice.
Welcome to Finances, the Other F Word, a Gen Xer podcast for musicians and music lovers, where we discuss money and music without all the pretentious bullshit. Here are your hosts, Zoe Terry, attorney at large, Stormy Andrews, founder of Yokel Local Marketing, and Mel O, certified financial planner and author of Finances, the Other F Word. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey guys, welcome to Finances, the Other F Word, and today on the podcast, we're going to discuss fiscal versus monetary policy. We are a little Stormy light today.
Oh.
I think he's doing some family stuff. I mean, who does that? But whatever. So we're going to let him go do some family time. And you know, Sandra really deserves it because she is long-suffering, having to deal with him constantly. But as always, we're going to kick it over to Zoe so she can talk about some of the articles that she posted.
Okay, so in the last week or so, we've posted some articles about the upcoming anniversary of Friends. Were you a fan of Friends?
I seen a couple episodes, but I did not watch it religiously.
Okay, well, we are coming up on the 25th anniversary of Friends.
I did like Ross, though.
Oh, you didn't? Oh,
I did. He was smart. It looks like he'd try really hard in bed.
He looked like he was just miserable all the time.
That's part of his persona. He's a little neurotic.
Right. Well, anyway, so 25th anniversary coming up. So I posted a couple of different articles about that. One of them was that Meghan Trainor is doing her own rendition of the Friends theme tune.
Who is?
Meghan Trainor. She did All About the Bass.
Oh, God. Okay. All right.
Anyway, she's a diehard Friends fan, and she has done her own version of the Friends theme tune. And
thank God.
And it's going to be played on the anniversary of the first episode ever being launched, and it is going to be there's going to be a big thing in New York. I've got to stop saying
It's all right. I can edit it out.
Yeah,
or maybe
okay.
not. It depends on the day.
If you stop breathing, I'll stop going.
I know. Well, that's going to be tough.
Okay.
Deal, though.
So apparently she, as I said, she's a huge, big fan, and she recorded her version of the theme song in her backyard studio with her family and her husband, and had a great time. And that theme song is going to be used to celebrate on the 25th anniversary. Another Friends-related article is that here in Vegas, we're having a big celebration for the Friends anniversary. MGM is putting on a whole host of Friends-related activities to celebrate. The music will be blasting out of the fountains of Bellagio, a reason not to go down there, I would have thought.
The Friends theme song?
Yeah. Well, because it's the Friends anniversary. That's
yeah, I know. Point. I just didn't. I don't know. I was hoping it was some other song. I mean, it's not a bad song, but Bellagio fountains are played to Sinatra, and I mean, not. I'll be there for you. Anyway.
Well, October 18th and 19th, Friends is taking over. And at the Bellagio, the Park, Luxor, and New York. And as well as getting to listen to that song endlessly, you can also meet Marcel, Ross's pet monkey, if you're interested.
I'm actually glad he's still alive.
Well, apparently he is, and you can meet him. My mic is pretty quiet. Other articles, we posted a bunch of articles about Brexit. One of the most recent ones is that an official document was released recently about the possible effects of having a no-deal Brexit. It was called the Operation Yellowhammer. It's a government document that Parliament forced government to the government to release, and it details potential food shortages, inadequate medical supplies, civil unrest, road blockages, lack of fuel, delays at the border, or potential side effects of a no-deal Brexit, which...
Well, and I don't really understand how the government works over there, but I know that Boris tried to shut down the government and they overruled it. And then there's some big hubbub that he lied to the Queen, and I don't know what that was about.
What a naughty boy.
Well, this is what I understand, and no disrespect to the Queen, because I know, you Brits do that thing, but she's not even related to the government. So what does it matter? I mean, I know it looks in poor taste, but what does it matter if he lied to her or not?
Because she is the head of the government. She has the ultimate power to dissolve government.
I thought she was a figurehead.
No. She really has ultimate power.
Oh.
Potentially. Okay, other articles, less political and boring. The wonderful Sting. I know that you like him.
I do.
He currently has a #1 in the dance club charts with If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free 2019. It's a new dance version of his 1985 classic from his current album, the reimagined hits called My Songs. So apparently Sting is still relevant and on the dance floors.
Yeah, and I think that was off of Dream of the Blue Turtles or something like that, and I was never a big fan of that song, but I'm sure I would be less of a fan of it to a dance beat.
Well,
I'm just assuming.
The kids are raving to it, apparently, because it's #1 in the dance hit parade.
Well, there you go. All right, Sting. Celebrate with some tantric sex with your wife.
I just threw up a little bit in my mouth. And then just a couple of documentaries that have coming out recently. Notorious B.I.G. There's a little mini documentary celebrating 25 years of his Ready to Die album. That's mentioned in our articles, and also Liam Gallagher's As It Was documentary, which I can only imagine is painful to watch, but that's also being released. So that's my little rundown of some of our articles over the past week or so. Over to you.
Over to me. Okay, so before I get into this, I have got to tell you, so one of the reasons why I love Britain, besides you gave me Zoe,
Obviously.
Yeah. And the fact that I think some of your men are cute. I haven't been over there yet, so I don't know. Maybe
you're not missing much.
I'm not missing.
As I said, there's a reason I came over here and married 2 of yours.
Oh, great. Okay, well, but I went and saw the Iron Maiden concert this past weekend, Legacy of the Beast. Now, for those of you who are metalhead Maiden fans, they came through on Book of Souls, and it blew. The concert was horrible. They played a whole ton of new songs, and the sound quality for some reason was shit. My friend works sound as a concert. That's his job. He works sound for a lot of different bands, and he even said the sound was shit. So I'm like, great. And this was Legacy of the Beast. They came back. They played all old stuff. It was the best fucking Iron Maiden concert I have ever seen in my life. They had the props like they used to for those of you who got to see the 80s arena tours with the props and the pyrotechnics and the great sound. And Bruce sang fantastic. And all I could think about while I was there, besides rocking out and screaming my balls off for 2 hours, was thank God for Britain. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So many great bands. I mean, we've talked about it endlessly, but literally Iron Maiden is like the coup de grace. I'm wearing my Iron Maiden shirt today. However, since Stormy is not here, we do not have the ability to get our visual working for some reason. So this will be audio only.
We tried, but we failed. We
did.
Get it to work.
We did. So you're going to miss my Legacy of the Beast.
But here she goes.
I almost put an S on it. Legacy of the Beast shirt. Right. And by the way, Iron Maiden, thank you for actually having a woman's shirt, because every time I go to a concert, it's all dudes, all dude cut shirts, and I have to cut them and modify them. But this one, I think, fits me very nicely.
It does.
Accentuates my curves and repping Iron Maiden all at the same time. So it's pretty awesome.
I will take photographs. How about that? So we can
there you go.
Put that on our social media.
We have to, front and back, because that's a big deal, because it's a fantastic shirt. Okay, so we are going to talk about financially fiscal and monetary policy, and this is going to be terms that you're probably going to hear more and more as we go through the aging business cycle of the economy. And so fiscal policy is just pretty boring. It's just what the actual administration that's in power does. So this would be changes to taxation and the expenditures and the debt management, as far as just running a household, like how you run a household and you have a budget. Same thing that the United States does, and any country really that is in something to this same effect as far as fiscal policy. And they're primarily focused on economic growth, price stability, and full employment. And so anytime you have different administrations change, what they're modifying the administrations by themselves is fiscal policy. Now, depending on who's in power and if the person you're talking to likes them or doesn't like them, they're either going to be, yay, the fiscal policy is great if they're pro the administration, or the current fiscal policy is shit because they are against the administration. But fiscal policy just means what the government does and what the government can change. Then there's monetary policy. So monetary policy is something that is based on the Federal Reserve, not actually on the administration. So when we're talking about the Federal Reserve, which we've talked about plenty of times on this podcast, what their job is they're trying to maintain sustainable, that's a big deal, sustainable long-term growth in the economy. They're trying to maintain price levels and support the economic growth to keep us growing in a positive way, which of course would mean that we would assume that GDP, which we've talked about on this podcast before, would go up as well. And they are trying to maintain full employment. Now, there's a couple little issues with employment that sometimes the unemployment numbers that come out are not necessarily correct, or they're not accounting certain people, and we'll talk about that here in just a second when we talk about lagging indicators. Now, there's a couple tools that the Fed can use. We've already talked about how they raise in interest rates. If they want to stimulate the economy, they drop them. If they want to pull back and contract the economy, they raise them. We've said that about a bazillion times, but I keep telling you that because you'll remember it. And so one of the other things that the Fed can do as far as a monetary policy is that they can actually, when you have an FDIC-insured bank, which is also called a Federal Reserve member bank, they have to keep a certain percentage of their deposits on deposit with the Federal Reserve. So if you're a bank and you have CDs and you have savings accounts, that's what the basis of your lending is based on, is those two type of accounts. And depending on how you have the deposits as a whole, just all of the money that you have there that is FDIC insured, because we're talking about member banks of the Federal Reserve, the Fed will say, okay, you need to give us a certain percentage. I don't know what that percentage is because it moves up and down. You need to, if they want to pull money out of the economy, they can also say, okay, now the reserve limit is a higher percentage of your overall balances because they want to pull money out of the banking system. And then, of course, if they're trying to stimulate the economy, they can also lower the amount, the percentage of all of the deposits that the member bank FDIC insurance is holding. Now, credit unions are not FDIC insured. They have a separate insurance, okay? So I'm literally talking about Federal Deposit Insurance Corporations, those FDIC insured banks. And then if they want to stimulate the economy, they lower that so the banks have more money to lend out, okay? Then another thing that the Fed can do as part of monetary policy is that they can lower the Fed discount rate. So we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different interest rates here. We've spoken about prime before. Prime is the interest rate that banks give their best customers. And there's about a bazillion other interest rates that you as a consumer will never see that are all kind of behind the scenes that the Fed is jostling. So think of it like a marionette puppet, which we'll come back here in a minute, marionette puppet. It's just one of the strings that they pull to try to fix things. So the Fed discount rate, what they do is if a bank wants to borrow money from the Fed, what they can do is they can raise that interest rate so that the bank would borrow less money, hypothetically, or they can lower the interest rate so the bank can actually borrow more money from the Fed cheaper. And when you control the banking system like that, what you do is you flood money into the system or you pull money out of the system. Now, another way that the Fed can actually put in monetary policy is that they can go in, and we see this a lot going on with the ECB, and we saw a lot of this happening in Japan. We saw a lot of this happening in the Eurozone, specifically 2010 and 11 when they caught our cold. And what happens is the Fed Reserve goes in and then they buy. So like if you have treasuries, okay, let's say Zoe's sitting on, millions of treasuries.
Ooh,
yeah.
Sounds painful.
Yeah, well, hey, I guess it depends. But so she's sitting on millions of treasuries. And so what happens is that if the government wants to put money into the system, they're going to pull out of the open market a whole bunch of these treasuries that are sitting there, thus giving Zoe money in her pocket so that she can go do things in the economy, get services, buy goods, that type of thing. Yes, for Zoe, totally true. Get more cats, catnip, scratching posts, etc. And if you want to pull money out of it, then what you do is you sell them to raise capital, which, it does twofold. But then what happens is that people buy them, thus taking money out of Zoe's pocket and giving it over to the government because now she's buying their U.S. treasuries. So a lot of times you're going to hear on the news, regardless of what news stations you listen to, fiscal policy is going to ease or fiscal policy is going to tighten or monetary policy, blah, blah, blah. So now you kind of understand the two between them. And so I just wanted to kind of segue that into two other interest rates that you might hear the terms of, and then talk about real quickly, go through leading and lagging indicators, which I've mentioned before on this podcast, but have never elaborated. So the discount rate we already talked about is the interest rate charged by the Fed to loan money to a member bank. Okay, so that is the Fed discount rate. And then there's a nominal interest rate. And you're probably not really going to hear these terms, but if you happen to come across them in anything you're reading, you can feel really smart because you're like, hey, I know what that is now because Mel told me. So the nominal interest rate is the stated interest rate, but it doesn't consider the effects of any inflation. The real interest rate is where you actually add the effects of inflation onto the nominal interest rate. So you have nominal interest rate, which has no effects of inflation, which really doesn't matter anything to you because we're all affected by inflation. And then, so the one that is of interest to you is the real interest rate, which is taking into account the effects of inflation on the interest rate, thus on your money, thus on the economy, et cetera, et cetera. Anytime you hear the term deficit spending, all that basically means is just like if you're in your household and you earn $100,000 a year and you have $110,000 going out a year, you're in a deficit, you're deficit spending. That's exactly what it means. So it means that for whatever reason, could be because that we're going to war, it could be because we're in the middle of a recession, or it could be that the administration's not handling the money situation correctly, then we can find yourself in a deficit spending. Now, real quickly, and we'll round this out, and then we're going to talk about some songs that are about the government, which I thought was just a kind of a cool tie-in. We have indicators that I've talked about before. Leading indicators show us where we're going. Okay? So if you want to know what's going to happen in the next 9 months, 15 months, you're looking at leading indicators. You're not looking at lagging indicators because lagging indicators tell you where you've been. So who cares? Okay? You already know where you've been through it. So there are 10 widely looked at indicators as far as considered to be the leading indicators. One of them is the length of the average work week in hours, specific to the manufacturing sector. Initial weekly claims for unemployment. Now, I touched on this just a moment ago and said I'd come back to it. In 2008, what happened is that there was a big concern that the unemployment numbers coming out were not correct. So anytime we saw unemployment numbers drop, everybody was like, oh, we're getting better. But in actuality, those numbers, can't track the people who just give up and don't even try to apply for benefits, or the people that were on benefits and they ran out. So a lot of times when you see somebody talk about, oh, our unemployment numbers dropped, the weekly claims for unemployment dropped, it's like, yeah, but there's those other two things you need to consider. New orders placed for manufacturers of consumer goods, percentages of companies receiving slower deliveries from suppliers, contracts and orders for new plant and equipment, which would make sense. All of this ties into GDP. Permit for new housing starts. That would be new houses that are coming online. Obviously, if people are concerned about the economy, they're probably not going to run out and buy a house, and so you start to see a drop-off in housing starts. The interest rate spread, and we talked about this on the In the Numbers episode where we talked about an inverted yield curve. The S&P 500 index. So usually if you start seeing the S&P 500 second wind, that is considered a leading indicator that they think that the investors are losing confidence in the economy. And we typically see the stock market start going down first before we actually get told, yes, we're actually in a recession. The money supply and the index of consumer expectations. Lagging indicators, real quickly, like I said, this is where we've went. So if you hear anything about these lagging indicators, I don't pay any attention to them as an advisor myself because they're irrelevant. They tell us where they went, where we came from. So average duration of unemployment, inventories to sales ratio, labor cost per unit of output, the average prime rate, which again is the prime rate that the banks give their best customers, commercial and industrial loans. Obviously, if we start to see that people are concerned that the market is slowing down, then they will have stopped getting these loans. And then by the time we get the numbers, we're like, oh yeah, people stopped getting loans. Well, yeah, that happened like 3 months ago. And consumers' installment credit to personal income. So we just talked about deficit spending. So if you're carrying more liabilities than you actually have assets or you actually have income coming in, then you're going to get your ratios teetered off. And so a lot of people, if they lose their job, they need to start living on credit. They need to start spending down their savings, et cetera. And the Consumer Price Index for Services, which you've talked about before on this podcast, which is our gauge for inflation. So I just wanted you guys to kind of understand the fiscal policy term and the monetary policy term. So as you're getting pissed off about something, the economy, make sure you know who you're getting pissed off at. Some of it's the administration, some of it's the Fed, and vice versa, and it changed. But at least you can kind of tell which belongs to who now and some of the different things that they can do. And so I have a couple metal songs about the government. And by the way, I got to tell you, this was the best research I've ever done for one of our podcasts is these songs, because so many songs I loved that I did not realize were about government. But I'm going to kick it over to Zoe first.
Okay, well, obviously my songs are from Great Britain because I knew Mel would go all metal on us. Mm-hmm. So my songs are songs that have government in the lyrics, so not necessarily in the title. So we start with The Specials, Ghost Town. I don't know if you know it, but if you heard it, you probably would. This town is nothing but a ghost town.
No. What happens? Does the music from Britain not get over here? I swear half these people I don't even know. I've never heard of them.
They were back in the 80s, I think, ska kind of music.
Okay.
So
I wasn't huge into ska, but
right.
So I'll use that as an excuse. Okay.
Primal Scream, Swastika Eyes.
Oh, that's
not a great title.
Very, very well. I mean, Schindler's List. So
I know. Let's not go back there, please. Yes, because I'll start giggling.
Watch our previous podcast, or listen and watch, and you'll be able to understand what we're talking about.
It was like one of those times when you're at the dinner table as a kid, where you got into trouble and you knew you had to stop, but you looked at your sister, and the more you looked at her, the more you laughed, and the more you got into trouble. That's what the Schindler's List incident was all about.
And we're going to skip right past that.
We won't talk about it anymore.
Nope.
I've mentioned the Style Council before. I love Paul Weller. He was in the Jam, the Style Council, and then he's a big star all of his own right. I've seen him a bunch of times. Anyway, one of the Style Council songs, in fact, a couple of the Style Council songs, Walls Come Tumbling Down, and With Everything to Lose, both of those have government in. But
yeah, and I think John Cougar Mellencamp covered The Walls Come Tumbling Down. Come tumbling down. Is that how it goes? When the walls... No? Okay, well, there. I don't know. John Cougar Mellencamp has some kind of song like that. Okay.
Okay, but put The Walls Come Tumbling Down on
I will. I have to... Yes. Whatever crazy shit is said in the podcast for music, if I can find it, I put it on the playlist regardless.
And then Radiohead.
Blame Zoe.
Everyone knows Radiohead, whether you like them or not. No surprises. That has government in the lyrics. Excuse me, I've got my potato skins are right up there in my throat, so do forgive me.
You should suck on a mint.
I did.
Oh, oof. Obviously not long enough.
What other ones? How about Manic Street Preachers, Strip It Down, The Divine Comedy, To the Rescue, and then I'll just say a couple more. Oh, Morrissey. There's at least 3 Morrissey songs that mention government, and that's no great surprise.
Right.
World Peace is None of Your Business. What a great title.
That is a great title.
Interesting Drug and In Your Lap. I'm sure probably there's a whole bunch more, but those 3, they've all got government in it. So I'll leave it at that. I've got plenty more, but I'm sure you've got a few that you want to mention.
I do, but you want to? We'll mix it up. I'll do a little metal.
Okay.
And then we'll kick it to you, and then I'll do a little more metal.
Okay.
Okay. So, well, the easiest one is Rage Against the Machine, basically any song by Rage Against the Machine. I tried to pull out a couple songs, Calm Like a Bomb, Killing in the Name of, and then the more I was thinking about it, I thought, basically it would be easier to pick the songs by Rage Against the Machine that are not about politics than to actually pick the ones that are. So I might, and actually this might be on your list, Zoe, Mother by Pink Floyd.
No, that's not on there.
That's not on there. Mother, can I trust the government? Anyway, great song. It was Off of the Wall, which again, also The Wall has like a bazillion songs about the government. And then and I had forgotten in Mother, I was listening to it today where he says, Mother, do you think they'll try to break my balls? And I just started cracking up because I totally forgot he said that. And I thought that was just hilarious. So for the Metallica fans out there, we have And Justice for All. Okay, so that was the first album that Cliff Burton was not able to be around for because he had passed away in the bus accident, and the lyrics are pretty saucy. Lady Justice has been raped, truth assassin, rolls of red tape, seal your lips, now you're done, their money tips her scales again. And then, of course, One by Metallica, who was their very first video that they ever released, and it is cut with Johnny Go Get Your Gun. And it's this really fucked up. Have you seen it? Okay, so the One video by Metallica terrified me, and it's just like kind of black and white imagery of the band playing, but then they've cut it in with this old, or at least it looks old, movie where this guy went to war, lost both of his arms and both of his legs. And I think something happened to his face because he's wearing this really fucking freaky, like 1930s, like kind of, it's not even a mask because it's not close to the face over him. And he can't talk or anything. And he's just hooked up to this machine. So he starts moving his head back and forth in the pattern of SOS. Like, what is it?
Morse code.
Morse code. And so he's laying in the bed, like moving his head back and forth, like, doing SOS. And so then a nurse takes pity on him and unplugs him. And then a doctor comes in and sees it and plugs him back in. And then he's there just forever. He's just, he can't do anything. He can't talk to anybody. He can't run away. He's just forcibly being kept alive. So when I was in high school, I had to do in debate class, I had to do a argument on euthanasia, and I was pro-euthanasia. And that I used that video because it's the imagery and with the music, it's just fucking crazy. And then, of course,
I'm not going to sleep tonight. Thanks.
It is terrifying. I still can't barely watch it. Even all the times I've seen them in concert when they play it, and at the very beginning of it, there's a whole bunch of like bombs and planes and shit that come in, like fucking. It scares me. It just absolutely terrifies me. It's a horrible. I mean, it's a great video, but it's horrible. And then the last one I'll say, and then kick it back over to Zoe to lighten the mood, would be Megadeth's Symphony of Destruction, which of course came out, I believe it was late 80s or early 90s, which is still one of my favorite Megadeth songs to this day. It's hard as hell. And I believe it was when Bush was in office, the first Bush, but it's, you take a mortal man and put him in control and watch him become a god. And it goes on from there, and it's an amazing song. And I have a couple more, but I'm gonna mix it up with Zoe and let her lighten the mood a little bit after my horrible One conversation.
Right. Okay. How about James? They were very big in the 90s. One of their songs, "Government Walls." Then the Stranglers, "Curfew."
God, I don't know any of these people. Okay. Was James the name of the band?
Yeah.
Just James.
Yeah, the name of the band was James.
Okay.
You'll recognize some of their stuff. I don't know this song, but then anyone who knows Billy Bragg will know that most of his songs were political, and one of the songs that just came up on my research was "Between the Wars." And then this isn't English, and a whole different bunch of people have covered it, but "No Woman, No Cry."
Oh, yeah.
Bob Marley, the Fugees, Boney M, Joan Baez, they've all covered it.
This is a great song.
Great song, and of course, it's got the word in it that we're talking about too.
Yeah.
So, let me think. Couple more. Did I say The Clash? Inoculated City?
Did not.
Okay, The Clash. And one last, Suede, again from the whole same era of James and some of the other bands I've been talking about, My Dark Star. And I'll pass it back to you.
All British bands. So there you go. For our UK listeners, you're going to know everything she just talked about, and I'm just going to be trying to find it and put it on the playlist. But the one I was surprised that you didn't say was Sex Pistols, Anarchy in the UK.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I purposely didn't say that one because I was like, I don't want to take her thunder. But back on the metal side, Empire by Queensryche off of Empire, the CD came out in the early 90s, had Jet Setting Woman on it, was fantastic. Of course, for those of you who remember Living Colour, Cult of Personality, and Living Colour is spelled differently from those who might remember in the 80s with the Wayans brothers had Living Colour. But Living Colour, the band, sued Living Colour, the television show, and I can't remember how it ever came out, but there was this whole big dispute about them using their name. And then also Rolling Stones, Gimme Shelter. The lady, I saw a documentary with that background singer that sang and it's so pretty, and then she's like screaming rape, murder, it's just a shot away, and I'm like, wow. And she is belting it, and it's just such a depressing song. And she said when she first saw the lyrics, she's like, seriously, you want me to sing rape, murder? And she killed it. And if you watch the documentary, she goes like, she sings the first time high, she sings the second time higher, and the third time she's like screaming her lungs out, and it is unbelievable the power that she can put behind that. This is one of my favorite, and this is off the Hysteria album by Def Leppard, which I love that whole CD. Gods of War. This was during the Reagan era. This is when we were concerned about nuclear war. Not unlike today, actually. So, and not unlike the Bay of Pigs. So I guess we're just, until we all die, we're going to be concerned with nuclear war. And speaking of that, Ozzy, Killer of Giants, also about nuclear war. Another great song, that one's off of Shot in the Dark. Fantastic. Genesis, Land of Confusion.
Oh, how did I miss that one?
I don't know. And then the last two were the ones that creep me out the absolute most. The last one being one of my favorite songs of all times, but I'm not a big CCR fan. Creedence Clearwater Revival, I'm not a huge fan. My dad loves them. But they have a song, Run Through the Jungle, that talks about our involvement in Vietnam when we're in Vietnam, and it's really creepy, and it's like, better run through the jungle, and it's talking about literally about fighting in Vietnam and not trying to get killed. It's crazy and haunting, and there is a video on YouTube where they've taken different scenes from the Vietnam War, because this was when CCR was out. This was way before MTV, and the videos on MTV, the reason why they even had videos when they first started is because when a record label wanted to present a new artist or present a artist's new CD, they would make a short video of it. And what MTV did was it took those videos at the very beginning and it got them and it played them. So that's why you were seeing some like crazy, like the Bugaloos was the first one, or the Buggles, I can't pronounce it. Anyway, not the Bugaloos. Anyway, and so for the first probably 6 months that MTV was on, there was a lot of these random little kind of videos because they were literally not meant to be seen by anybody. They were just basically record execs showing them to other record execs. And so CCR, they don't have, from what I saw, an actual video for it. And so somebody put scenes from the Vietnam era war and put it to that song. And it's haunting. It's unbelievably fucking haunting. And then my very last one, which is one of my favorite songs of all time, is by Ministry. And it is NWO, which stands for New World Order. So when we're going back to George H. Bush, the first Bush that was in office, at some point he was talking about the United Nations, and he incorporated in his speech the phrase, a new world order. We are going to basically create a new world order. And so I cannot explain to you how heavy this song is, but how amazingly talented the musicians are, and it will get you so pumped up and and it is hands down one of my favorite songs ever. And so as I was sitting here and thinking about songs and I was watching them on YouTube, and I was like, oh my God, I was super excited. So I'm actually excited to build this playlist, even with your stuff, Zoe.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. So that is it for today. Hopefully in our next couple episodes, we will be able to have Stormy back. As always, our book is on Amazon. Finance is the Other F Word, another F word to love. 10% of net proceeds going to Paws, providing animals with support, and going to Forgotten Not Gone. And of course, follow us on social media. Maybe not Twitter.
Yeah, we're over Twitter right now.
We're kind of over Twitter. So,
but Gram, get us on the Gram.
Oh, is that what they're calling it now?
That's what I'm calling it.
Okay, so on the Gram, we're at. I'm asking you.
How many followers we have?
No, I said on the Gram we're at, and you're like, finance is the other F word. That's what we are.
F-word, yeah.
So, all right.
And don't forget the book. Facebook.
Oh, I was like, I just talked about it. No. Okay, and also on the book, as Zoe calls it, on Facebook under the same.
Face cloth, as my sister calls it.
Face cloth? Okay. I don't know. Face something. Just find us. We're on there as well. So, all right, guys, thank you so much. Have a good day.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening. If you like us, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.